March 12, 2023, 6:40 a.m. Dubai Industrial District. Two sanitation workers lean over a dumpster. One of them spots it first, a sealed plastic bag wedged between trash bags. Inside, a U.S. passport. No dirt, no damage. Just there. 3 hours later, Carmen's phone rings in her Dubai hotel room. Officer Nasir's voice is careful, professional. "We found something. You need to come to the station." Carmen already knows. She's known since day 47, when the embassy stopped calling back. Since day 51, when Nasir showed her the CCTV footage. Since day 54, when Faisal smiled and told her to go home. She's known for weeks. But knowing and seeing are different things. At the police station, Nasir slides the sealed bag across the table. Through the plastic, Carmen can see Megan's passport photo. Smiling. Hopeful. Her sister isn't missing anymore. She's gone.
Welcome to True Crime Story Files. Real people, real crimes, real consequences, because every story matters. Subscribe now, turn on the bell, and step inside the world where truth meets tragedy.
Megan Carter's life in Phoenix ran on caffeine and willpower. She clocked in at a medical billing office at 7 every morning, answering phones and processing insurance claims until 3. Then she'd pick up Emma and Sophie from school, feed them dinner, and head out to her second job, waitressing at a truck stop diner off the I-10 until midnight. She'd come home smelling like grease and coffee, peel off her shoes, and count her tips on the kitchen counter while the house slept around her. The bills lived in the top drawer of her dresser. Electric, water, credit cards charging 19% interest, medical debt from Sophie's asthma inhaler refills, a car payment she was 2 months behind on. Her ex-husband had left her with more debt than she'd known existed. By the time the divorce was finalized, he had already moved to California with his new girlfriend. The lawyers told her there was nothing left to recover. He'd drained their joint accounts and walked away clean. Megan learned to stop opening the drawer. She knew what was in there. Looking at it didn't change anything. One night in January 2023, the lights went out. Not from a storm, not from a blown fuse, from 2 missed electric bill payments. Emma and Sophie came into the living room, confused and a little scared. Megan's stomach turned, but she smiled. "Just maintenance," she told them, keeping her voice light. "Happens all the time in these older buildings. Should be back on in a couple hours." She found a deck of cards in the junk drawer and lit 3 candles on the coffee table. They played Go Fish by candlelight. The girls giggled and complained about not being able to see their cards. Megan laughed with them, her hands trembling every time she drew from the deck. That's the thing about desperation. It teaches you to perform, to smile when your chest is tight, to make your children feel safe when you're terrified. Megan had a pattern she'd recognized in herself for years. When she was desperate, when the pressure built and the walls closed in, she trusted people too quickly. She wanted to believe in solutions so badly that she ignored her instincts. And the worst part wasn't that she did it. The worst part was knowing she did it and doing it anyway. The shame of that sat heavier than the unpaid bills. On her wrist, she wore a bent silver bracelet. The clasp had been broken for over a year. Her daughters had pooled their allowance money and picked it out at a department store for Mother's Day. It was too small and didn't stay closed properly, but Megan wore it every day. They'd chosen it. That mattered more than whether it fit right. Carmen had watched all of this happen from a distance that felt too far. She was Megan's older sister by 3 years, and she carried guilt that never quite settled. During Megan's divorce, Carmen had been drowning in her own crisis, a lawsuit at her job, her own marriage unraveling. She'd missed calls from Megan for weeks at a time. Didn't notice when Megan stopped showing up to family dinners. Didn't ask the right questions when Megan started making excuses. By the time Carmen realized Megan's ex had been systematically draining their accounts, transferring money into private accounts Megan didn't know about, it was too late. The money was gone. Megan was left with debt and 2 daughters to raise alone. Carmen never forgave herself for missing it, for being so caught up in her own problems that she didn't see her sister falling apart. Megan never blamed her, but that almost made it worse. So when the recruiter contacted Megan in early January 2023 about an executive hospitality management position in Dubai, housing included, salary nearly 4 times what she was making, relocation assistance provided, Carmen wanted to feel happy for her. Megan showed her the offer letter one afternoon in Carmen's kitchen. She held her phone out, her hand shaking slightly. Carmen read it twice. The company name was vague. Apex Horizon Hospitality Group. The email was a Gmail address. Not a corporate domain. The contract was only 2 pages. Something about it felt off, but Megan's face was glowing with a hope Carmen hadn't seen in years. "This could change everything," Megan said quietly. "The girls could have stability. I could actually save money. I could stop living like this." Carmen opened her mouth. The words were right there. "Let's research this more. Let's verify the company. Let's make sure this is real." But Megan looked so fragile, like one wrong word might shatter her. And Carmen thought about the candlelit card game, the unpaid bills, the 2 jobs, the exhaustion carved into her sister's face. She swallowed the words. "You deserve this," Carmen said instead. The day Megan signed the contract, Carmen was sitting across from her at the kitchen table. Megan held the pen over the dotted line for a long time. Her hand hovered. She took a shaky breath, staring at the signature line like it might disappear if she looked away. "I want to believe I'm allowed something good," Megan whispered. Carmen's throat tightened. She felt the unease again, that nagging pull in her gut that said, "Wait, slow down, look closer." But she pushed it down. She told herself Megan had been through enough. She'd earned a break. She deserved to stop struggling. "You are," Carmen said. "You're allowed this." Megan signed. 2 months later, Carmen would be standing in her kitchen staring at an email from Dubai authorities, holding a shattered coffee cup, replaying that moment over and over in her mind. If she had said one more sentence, one more warning, if she had asked Megan to wait just one more day while they verified the company together, maybe Megan would have stayed. January 18th, 2023. Megan stepped off the plane into heat that felt like opening an oven door. The air shimmered above the tarmac. Inside the terminal, everything gleamed. Marble floors, gold fixtures, glass walls stretching 3 stories high. She'd never seen anything like it. The driver held a sign with her name. Black sedan, leather seats, air conditioning cold enough to make her shiver. They drove past skyscrapers that looked like they'd been pulled from a science fiction film. Lights everywhere, construction cranes against the sunset. The city felt alive in a way Phoenix never had. The welcome dinner was that night at a restaurant on the 40th floor, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the water. Other new hires sat around the table. 3 women, 2 men, all American or European. Everyone looked relieved to be there. Victor Aslan arrived 20 minutes late. Mid-50s, salt and pepper hair, navy suit that probably cost more than Megan's car. He moved through the room slowly, shaking hands, making eye contact that lasted a beat too long. When he got to Megan, he smiled. "Megan Carter, Phoenix, Arizona. 2 daughters, Emma and Sophie, correct?" She nodded, surprised. Yes, that's right. 9 and 11 now, if I'm remembering correctly. He sat down across from her, still smiling. You mentioned in your application that Sophie wants to be a veterinarian. Megan didn't remember writing that. She must have. But the fact that he'd retained it, that he'd read her application closely enough to remember her younger daughter's dream, felt oddly invasive and flattering at the same time. Victor pulled out his phone, swiped twice, then turned the screen toward her, a photograph of a young woman in a graduation cap and gown, holding a diploma, grinning. My daughter, he said warmly. Graduated last spring, NYU. I missed too many years of her childhood building this business. I won't make that mistake again. He looked at Megan directly. Family is everything. That's why we're so selective about who joins ours. The words sounded kind, but something about the way he said ours made Megan's stomach tighten. She reached into her purse, looking for something to ground herself. Do you have a business card? I like to keep contact information organized. Victor's smile didn't falter. He folded his hands on the table. People at my level don't use cards. The others around the table laughed, light, easy, like it was an inside joke she'd understand eventually. Megan laughed too, even though she didn't get it. After dinner, the driver took her to her temporary apartment. 18th floor. Furnished. Clean white walls, minimalist furniture, a view of the marina. But when she unlocked the door, the first thing she noticed was the smell. Faint, but unmistakable. Cigarette smoke. Old smoke, like someone had been chain smoking in there for weeks and then tried to cover it with air freshener. The leasing agent had told her the unit was brand new, never occupied. Megan walked through the space slowly. The kitchen was spotless. The bathroom smelled like bleach. But in the living room, one of the windows was cracked open about 2 inches. She didn't remember the agent opening it during the walkthrough. She was sure it had been closed. She stood there for a moment, staring at the gap. Then she shook her head. Maybe maintenance had been in. Maybe they'd been airing the place out. That made sense. She pulled out her phone and took a selfie in front of the window, the glittering skyline behind her. She sent it to Carmen with the caption, I made it. Carmen responded immediately. So proud of you. Call me tomorrow. Megan promised she would. That night, she lay in the unfamiliar bed, staring at the ceiling. The air conditioner hummed. Outside, the city glowed. Everything looked exactly the way the recruiter had described it. Luxury, opportunity, a fresh start. But her mind kept circling back to small things. The way Victor had known her daughter's names. The way everyone laughed when he said he didn't use business cards. The smell in the apartment. The open window. She told herself she was being paranoid. This was what she'd wanted. This was the break she'd been praying for. Everything looked perfect, as long as she didn't look too closely. The first week, Megan kept waiting for orientation, a handbook, an employee ID, something official. Instead, Victor's assistant, a woman named Layla who never made eye contact, sent her text messages with addresses and times. Meeting today. 2 p.m. Al-Wasl Tower, Suite 1804. No agenda, no explanation of what the meeting was about or who she'd be meeting with. Megan would show up, shake hands with men in expensive suits who spoke in vague terms about expansion and logistics, and then leave an hour later with no clear understanding of what her actual job was. There was no office, no desk, no colleagues she saw more than once. Every meeting was in a different building, a different part of the city. She started keeping a list on her phone just to track where she'd been. On day 9, she came home to her apartment and noticed the kitchen drawer wasn't fully closed. She'd left it shut that morning. She was sure of it. Inside, her mail and a few papers had been shifted slightly, like someone had rifled through them and tried to put everything back the way it was. She stood there staring at it for a full minute, her heart beating faster than it should. Then she closed the drawer and told herself she'd probably just forgotten. The next day, the chair at her dining table was angled differently. She distinctly remembered pushing it in before she left. Now, it faced the window. On day 12, Victor sent her a message at 11:30 p.m. She was already in bed, nearly asleep. Be ready tomorrow, 7 a.m. I'll send a driver. No context. No explanation. No option to ask questions, just an instruction. The driver arrived at 6:55 a.m. and took her to a villa in Palm Jumeirah, another meeting with men she didn't recognize. They asked her about her background, her family, her financial situation. She answered because she didn't know what else to do. Afterward, no one told her why she'd been there. At a company event the following week, another restaurant, another group of unfamiliar faces, Megan found herself standing next to a woman around her age. British accent, blonde hair pulled back in a tight bun. She looked tired. Megan tried to make conversation. How long have you been with the firm? The woman's smile flickered. For just a second, something crossed her face. Fear, maybe, or resignation. Then she recovered. Long enough. She walked away before Megan could say anything else. Moved quickly toward the restroom and didn't come back. Megan started noticing the way people looked at her in the apartment lobby. The front desk staff, the security guards. They'd glance at her, then glance away too fast. Not hostile. Something else. Something that felt like pity, or warning, or both. She tried to brush it off, told herself she was imagining things. But when she video called her daughters that Sunday, she spent 5 minutes in the bathroom beforehand, practicing her smile in the mirror. She needed it to look natural, needed them to believe she was fine. Emma asked her what her office looked like. Megan lied and said it had a view of the water. Sophie asked when she was coming home to visit. Megan said soon, even though no one had mentioned vacation time, and she was afraid to ask. Carmen was on the call too. Sitting in the background, Megan could see her watching, studying her face. She knew Carmen could tell something was off. The smile wasn't reaching her eyes. Carmen opened her mouth like she was about to ask a question. Megan cut her off. How's school going, Sophie? Did you finish that project on ecosystems? Sophie launched into a story about her diorama, and Carmen closed her mouth. The moment passed. After the call ended, Megan sat on her couch in the silence of the apartment. The air conditioner hummed. Outside, the city glittered. She stared at the window, the one that kept ending up cracked open, even when she was sure she'd closed it. She thought about the British woman at the event, the way she'd said, long enough, like it was a warning. She thought about the way the security guard had looked at her that morning, then looked away too quickly. She thought about the drawer, the chair, the late-night messages from Victor with no context. She wasn't scared yet. Not exactly. It wasn't fear. It was something quieter. A low hum of unease that lived in her chest and wouldn't go away no matter how many times she told herself she was overreacting. She was just uncomfortable enough to notice, but not uncomfortable enough to leave. Day 38, February 24th, 2023, 11:47 p.m. Dubai time. Carmen's phone rang while she was loading the dishwasher. She almost didn't answer, figured it was a spam call. But then she saw Megan's name and grabbed it. Hey, I was starting to worry. You haven't called in. I'm fine. Megan's voice was tight, clipped. I just wanted to check in. Carmen set down the plate she was holding. Something was wrong. She could hear it in the way Megan was breathing, Shallow, controlled, like she was trying not to make noise. "Meg, what's going on?" "Nothing. I'm just tired." Megan glanced off camera, toward something Carmen couldn't see. Her eyes darted back. "Work's been busy." "What kind of work? You haven't really explained what you're doing there." Megan's jaw tightened. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Behind her, a shadow moved across the wall. Tall. Male. Megan flinched, just a slight jerk of her shoulders, but she didn't turn around, didn't acknowledge it. Carmen sat up straighter. "Megan, is someone there?" "No, I mean, it's just—" She lowered her voice to barely above a whisper. "I'm okay. I'm just doing what they need until my real role starts." "What does that mean? What are they having you do?" Megan's eyes flicked toward the door again. She hesitated too long. When she finally spoke, her voice was flat. "I have to go." "Wait." The call ended. Carmen stared at the blank screen, her stomach twisting. She replayed the last 60 seconds in her head, the way Megan had looked off camera, the shadow, the flinch, the whisper. She tried calling back. It rang 4 times, then went to voicemail. That night, Emma and Sophie recorded a voice note before bed. Carmen heard them giggling in the other room, fighting over the phone. "Good night, Mom. We love you." Sophie's voice, bright and clear. "Emma says hi too. She's being shy." Emma's voice in the background. "I'm not shy. You're annoying." More giggling. Then the message ended. Carmen sent it to Megan immediately. The notification showed delivered, but Megan never opened it. Day 39. No response. Carmen sent a text. "Hey, just checking in. Call when you can." Day 40. Still nothing. She called twice. Both times, straight to voicemail. Day 41. Carmen sent another message. "Megan, I'm getting worried. Please just let me know you're okay." The message showed delivered, but the voice note from the girls was still sitting there, unread. Megan checked her phone constantly. She always opened messages from her daughters within minutes. Always. Day 42. Carmen tried calling the company. She scrolled back through her texts with Megan until she found the name. Apex Horizon Hospitality Group. She found a phone number listed on a website that looked legitimate enough. The number was disconnected. An automated voice. "The number you have dialed is no longer in service." Carmen's hand started shaking. She called the apartment complex next, the Marina Tower, where Megan had said she was staying. It took 3 transfers before she got someone in leasing. "I'm trying to reach my sister, Megan Carter. She's renting a unit on the 18th floor." The leasing agent put her on hold. Muzak played for 2 minutes. When the agent came back, her voice was careful, professional. "Ma'am, we don't have anyone by that name in our system. That's impossible. She sent me pictures. She's been living there since January. I've checked twice. There's no lease under that name. I'm sorry." Carmen hung up and sat in her car in the grocery store parking lot, staring at her phone. Her chest felt tight. She pulled up the last text from Megan, the selfie from the first night, the skyline glittering behind her. "I made it." She called the U.S. Embassy in Dubai. The line rang 6 times before someone picked up. "U.S. Citizen Services." Carmen's voice cracked. "My sister is missing. She's in Dubai. I haven't heard from her in days, and I think something's wrong." The woman on the other end sounded tired. Not unkind, just tired. "How long has she been out of contact?" 4 days. But she wouldn't just stop responding. She has kids. She always... Is she an adult? "Yes, but has she been reported missing by local authorities?" "I don't know. I don't know who to call. That's why I'm calling you." There was a pause, the sound of typing. "We can file a welfare check request. I'll need her full name, date of birth, and last known address. Carmen gave her everything she had. The agent took it all down, her tone neutral, procedural. "We'll follow up within 72 hours. If local authorities locate her and confirm she's safe, we'll let you know. And if they don't," another pause, "we'll be in touch." The call ended. Carmen sat in the parking lot until the sun went down. She kept staring at the unread voice note from the girls. The timestamp, day 38, 9:14 p.m. By day 43, Carmen knew Megan wasn't ignoring her. Someone else was. Day 44. Carmen walked into the Phoenix Police Department on East Washington Street at 8:30 a.m. She'd barely slept. Her hands shook as she filled out the missing person report. The officer behind the desk was young, maybe late 20s. He read through the form, then looked up. "Your sister is in Dubai?" "Yes. She hasn't responded in almost a week. Her phone's still active, but she's not answering. The company she works for doesn't exist. The apartment," he held up a hand. "Ma'am, she's an adult, and she's abroad. We don't have jurisdiction. You need to contact Dubai authorities." Carmen leaned forward. "I did. They said they'd follow up in 72 hours. That was yesterday. I haven't heard anything." "Then you need to keep following up with them." "I'm telling you something is wrong. She wouldn't just disappear. She has 2 daughters. The officer's expression didn't change. "I understand you're concerned, but unless there's evidence of a crime committed here in Phoenix, there's nothing we can do. She left the country voluntarily." Carmen's voice rose. "She didn't leave voluntarily to vanish. Someone is keeping her from contacting us." "You don't know that." "I know my sister." He slid the form back across the desk. "Contact the State Department. They handle international cases." Carmen slammed her palm on the counter. "I need you to listen to me. My sister is missing. She is in danger. And you're telling me to make more phone calls?" The officer stood up. His voice was calm, detached. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to lower your voice." She wanted to scream. She wanted to grab him by the collar and make him understand. Instead, she snatched the form off the desk and walked out. That afternoon, she called the State Department's Bureau of Consular Affairs. 22 minutes on hold. When someone finally picked up, they transferred her. Another hold. Another transfer. She talked to 4 different people. Each one took notes. Each one said they'd escalate the case. None of them sounded like they believed her. She called the National Center for Missing and Exploited Adults. They told her to file a report with the FBI. She called the FBI. They told her to contact Interpol. She called Interpol's National Central Bureau. They told her local authorities in Dubai had to initiate the report. She was back where she started. Her friend Julie called that night. Carmen hadn't answered her texts in 3 days, and Julie was worried. "I'm sure she's fine," Julie said gently. "Maybe she's just busy. New job, new city. You know how it is." Carmen's jaw tightened. She wouldn't ignore her daughters. Maybe she just needs some space to adjust. It's only been a few weeks, right? Carmen hung up without saying goodbye. Her other friends said similar things. "Give her time. She's probably overwhelmed. You're overreacting." One of them suggested Megan might be avoiding contact because she felt guilty about leaving the girls. Carmen stopped answering calls. On day 47, she sat in her car outside a Safeway, staring at her phone. She'd just gotten off another call with the embassy. Still no update. Still no confirmation that anyone was actually looking. Something broke inside her. She cried in a way she hadn't since Megan's divorce. Ugly, gasping sobs that made her chest ache. She pressed her forehead against the steering wheel and let it out. No one could see her. No one could tell her to calm down or be patient or have faith in the system. The system wasn't working. The system didn't care. She went home and opened her laptop. Flights to Dubai. She found one leaving in 2 days. Round trip, $2,100. She didn't have $2,100. She maxed out her credit card anyway. She packed light. 1 carry-on, 3 changes of clothes. In the inside pocket, wrapped in tissue paper, she placed Megan's bent silver bracelet, the one the girls had given her, the one with the broken clasp. She didn't know why she brought it. Maybe because it felt like proof that Megan existed, that she mattered, that she was loved. March 3rd, 2023. Carmen landed in Dubai at 10:20 p.m. The heat hit her the moment she stepped outside the airport. The city glowed against the night sky, beautiful and indifferent. The next morning, she went to the police station listed in the embassy's email. She waited in a lobby with fluorescent lights and plastic chairs for 3 hours. When they finally called her name, the officer barely looked at her. "You have new information?" "No. I'm here because no one is looking for my sister." He flipped through a file. "We have the report. We followed up." No one at the listed address knew her. Because the address was fake. The company was fake. That's why I'm telling you she's in danger. "Do you have proof she didn't leave voluntarily?" Carmen stared at him. "She hasn't contacted her children in 2 weeks. That's not proof." "What would be proof?" He closed the file. "Evidence of foul play. Witnesses. A credible threat. She's missing. That's the threat. Missing isn't the same as abducted. Many people choose to disappear." Carmen felt her throat tighten. She excused herself, walked down the hallway, and locked herself in a bathroom stall. She pressed her fist against her mouth and cried as quietly as she could, biting down on her knuckles to keep from making noise. When she came out, her eyes were red. No one in the lobby looked at her. The system didn't see Megan as a daughter or a mother, just another file in a country that wasn't hers. Day 51, March 5th, 2023. Carmen returned to the police station for the 3rd time that week. She'd prepared another stack of documents, printed emails, screenshots of Megan's last messages, the fake company website. She was ready to argue again. But this time, a different officer met her in the lobby. A woman, mid-40s, wearing a headscarf and a badge that read, Officer Halima Nasir. "Mrs. Torres?" She used Carmen's married name from the report. "Come with me." She led Carmen to a small office in the back, away from the front desk. The door closed. Nasir sat down and gestured for Carmen to do the same. "I've been reviewing your sister's case," Nasir said quietly. "I work in a specialized unit, human trafficking, exploitation. I've seen cases like this before." Carmen's breath caught. "You believe me?" Nasir nodded. "I do." For the first time in 2 weeks, Carmen felt something other than helplessness. Someone was listening. Nasir opened a folder on her desk. Inside were printouts, data logs, maps, timestamps. "We pulled records from her phone activity, rideshare logs, cell tower pings, SIM card data." She spread the pages across the desk. Carmen leaned forward, trying to make sense of the numbers and coordinates. "Your sister wasn't going to different offices for work," Nasir said. "She was being taken to the same location, repeatedly." She pointed to a cluster of red dots on a map. "This building, Marina Heights Tower, luxury high-rise, 60 floors, owned by a shell corporation registered in the Cayman Islands." Carmen stared at the map. "What was she doing there?" Nasir's expression darkened. "That's what we're trying to determine." She pulled out another document, a grainy still image from CCTV footage. The timestamp read February 26, 2023. Day 42. The last day anyone had confirmed contact with Megan. The image showed a black SUV parked in front of a building entrance. A man in a suit stood beside the rear passenger door. His hand rested on the lower back of a woman getting into the vehicle. Carmen recognized her immediately. Megan, hair pulled back, the same jacket she'd been wearing in her last video call. And the man, Victor Aslan. Carmen had seen his photo on the company website before it disappeared. Megan's face was half turned toward the camera, but her expression was blank. Not scared, not resisting. Just empty. This was taken at 11:40 a.m., Nasir said. 2 hours later, her phone stopped transmitting location data. The SIM card went inactive. Carmen's hands trembled. Who is he? Nasir hesitated. She glanced toward the closed door, then back at Carmen. His name is Victor Aslan, Turkish national. He's been flagged before, multiple times. Fake companies, shell registrations, high-risk recruitment patterns, targeting women from the US and Europe. Then arrest him. It's not that simple. Nasir's voice dropped. He has connections, political, financial, people who make investigations difficult. Carmen felt her chest tighten. How many women? We don't know. At least a dozen cases with similar patterns over the last 3 years. Most go unreported. The ones that are reported, they stall. Carmen stared at the frozen image of Megan's face. Is this trafficking? Nasir looked away. She folded her hands on the desk, choosing her words carefully. It's complicated here. Officially, your sister entered the country voluntarily. She signed a contract. She wasn't forced across the border. That makes it difficult to classify. But she didn't know what she was signing. I believe you. But legally, proving coercion after entry is extremely difficult, especially when the employer has resources and legal cover. Carmen's voice cracked. So what are you telling me? That no one is going to do anything? Nasir met her eyes. I'm telling you, I will do everything I can, within the limits of what I'm allowed to do. But you need to understand, this man is careful. He doesn't leave evidence, and when he does, it disappears. Carmen looked back at the CCTV image. Megan's expressionless face. Victor's hand on her back, guiding her into the vehicle like she belonged to him. She didn't just get unlucky, did she? Carmen said quietly. Nasir shook her head. No, she was selected. Day 54, March 8th, 2023. Officer Nasir called Carmen from an unknown number. Her voice was quiet, careful. I'm sending you an address, off the record. A man named Faisal Darwish. He's a coordinator for one of the shell companies tied to Victor Aslan. He handles logistics, paperwork, travel arrangements. Carmen wrote it down. Will he talk to me? I don't know. But he's lower level, less protected. If anyone might slip, it's him. The address led to a commercial building in Dira, older than the glass towers Carmen had seen elsewhere in the city. 3rd floor, Suite 302. The hallway smelled like stale coffee and cleaning solution. The office was small. No windows. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. The air conditioning was cranked so high Carmen could see her breath. Faisal Darwish sat behind a metal desk, typing on a laptop. Mid-30s, clean-shaven, wearing a button-down shirt and a watch that looked expensive until you looked closely. Knockoff. The logo was slightly off. He glanced up when she walked in. Can I help you? Carmen closed the door behind her. I'm looking for my sister, Megan Carter. She came to Dubai in January for a job with Apex Horizon Hospitality Group. Faisal's expression didn't change. He leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. I don't know that company. You work for them, or you work for someone who owns them. He smiled faintly. You've been misinformed. Carmen pulled out her phone and showed him Megan's photo, the one from her passport. She's been missing for 2 weeks. The last time anyone saw her, she was with a man named Victor Aslan. Faisal studied the photo for too long. His eyes moved over Megan's face slowly, like he was trying to place her. Then he shrugged. I don't recognize her. Look again. He handed the phone back. A lot of women come to Dubai for work. A lot of them think they're owed more than life gives them. They come here expecting miracles. Carmen's hands tightened around her phone. She wasn't expecting a miracle. She was expecting a job. Faisal reached for a glass of water on his desk, took a sip, and set it down carefully. Expectations are a funny thing. People see what they want to see. She has 2 daughters. Carmen's voice shook. She has a family. He tilted his head, almost amused. Everyone has someone. That doesn't make them special. Something snapped inside Carmen. She slammed her palm on the desk. The sound echoed in the small room. Where is my sister? Faisal didn't flinch. He looked at her hand on the desk, then back at her face. His voice stayed calm, almost kind. You're upset. I understand. But you're asking questions I can't answer. Can't or won't. He leaned forward, folding his hands on the desk. His tone softened, like he was speaking to a child. Some doors you shouldn't open. Some people you shouldn't follow. You should go home, Mrs. He paused, waiting for her to fill in the blank. Carmen didn't say anything. Faisal smiled. That's wise. You seem like a smart woman. Smart enough to know when to stop. Carmen's chest felt tight. She wanted to scream. She wanted to reach across the desk and grab him by the collar and make him tell her the truth. But his expression didn't change. He wasn't scared. He wasn't even annoyed. He was bored. I think we're done here, Faisal said. He stood up and walked to the door, opening it. Safe travels back to the States. Carmen didn't move. What did you do to her? He sighed, almost regretful. I didn't do anything to anyone. I coordinate logistics. I answer emails. I process paperwork. That's all. You're lying. You're emotional. He gestured toward the hallway. I think it's best if you leave. 2 security guards appeared in the doorway. They didn't touch her, but their presence was clear. Carmen had no choice. She walked out. Faisal stood in the doorway, watching her go. He adjusted his cuffs, slowly, deliberately, then smiled. Not cruelly. Just faintly, like he'd already forgotten her. Carmen stopped at the elevator and looked back. He was still standing there, perfectly calm, perfectly untouchable. The elevator doors closed. For the first time, Carmen realized she wasn't fighting a broken system. She was fighting people who liked that no one could touch them. People who smiled because they knew they'd already won. And the worst part was, they were right. Day 60, March 12, 2023, 6:40 a.m. 2 sanitation workers in the Dubai Industrial District found a sealed plastic bag wedged in a dumpster. Inside, a U.S. passport. No dirt. No damage. Just abandoned. Officer Nasir called Carmen 3 hours later. We found something. You need to come to the station. Carmen knew before she got there. She knew from the tone of Nasir's voice. Careful. Controlled. The way people sound when they're about to deliver bad news. They brought her to a back room. Nasir placed the sealed bag on the table between them. Carmen stared at it. The passport was visible through the plastic, navy blue cover, gold embossed eagle. She picked it up slowly, turning it over in her hands. The plastic crinkled. Through the transparent material, she could see Megan's photo on the ID page. Smiling, hopeful, hair pulled back. Taken 5 years ago when she'd renewed it for a trip to Cancun, they never ended up taking. Nasir stood beside her and said nothing. There was nothing to say. "Nobody?" Carmen's voice came out flat. "No, just this item. No other belongings. No witnesses. The area has minimal surveillance." Carmen nodded. She kept turning the bag over, like if she looked at it from a different angle. It might tell her something new. It didn't. "What happens now?" Carmen asked. Nasir's jaw tightened. "The case will be marked as a suspected targeted disappearance, unresolved. We'll keep it open, but without new evidence or witnesses." She trailed off. Carmen set the bag down on the table. "She's not coming back." Nasir didn't answer. She didn't have to. Carmen flew home the next day. She couldn't afford to stay longer. Her credit card was maxed out. Her job had called twice. Emma and Sophie needed her. When she walked through her front door in Phoenix, the house felt too quiet. The girls were at school. She set her suitcase down in the hallway and stood there, staring at nothing. On the kitchen counter, she found crayon drawings the girls had made while she was gone. Both of them showed the same thing: a stick-figure woman stepping off an airplane, smiling, arms open. Above it, in Emma's handwriting, "Welcome home, Mom." Carmen folded the drawings carefully and put them in a drawer in her bedroom. She couldn't look at them yet. Maybe not for a long time. She unpacked her suitcase that night. Dirty clothes, toiletries. At the bottom, wrapped in tissue paper, she found the silver bracelet, the one Megan's daughters had given her on Mother's Day, the one with the broken clasp. Carmen sat on the edge of her bed and held it in her palm. The metal was tarnished. One of the links was bent. It had never fit right. She put it on her own wrist. The broken clasp dug into her skin, sharp and uncomfortable. She didn't fix it. That night, she lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. She thought about the last time she'd seen Megan in person, January 16th, the day before she left for Dubai. They'd hugged in the driveway. Megan had been nervous, excited, hopeful. Carmen had told her she deserved this. She thought about the video call on day 38, the shadow behind Megan, the flinch, the whisper. She thought about the unread voice note from the girls, still sitting on Megan's phone, wherever it was now. She thought about Faisal's smile, Victor Aslan's hand on Megan's back, the sea footage frozen on Megan's expressionless face. She left Phoenix with a sister. She came back with silence and a piece of metal that used to mean hope. September 26 months after Megan's passport was found. Carmen sat across from an FBI liaison named Agent Troy Bennett in a federal building in downtown Phoenix. He specialized in overseas disappearances involving U.S. citizens. He'd requested the meeting. Carmen didn't know why until he opened the file in front of him. "Your sister's case," he said carefully, "matches a pattern we've been tracking for 3 years. Carmen's chest tightened. "What kind of pattern?" Bennett pulled out a list of names. 11 women, ages 28 to 42, all American, all recruited through luxury hospitality job offers in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, or Doha. All disappeared within 60 days of arrival. "Same recruitment structure," Bennett said. "Fake companies, shell corporations registered offshore, high salaries, housing included, contracts signed remotely. And when the women arrive, the jobs don't exist." Carmen stared at the list. 11 names, 11 families, 11 sets of children left behind. "What happened to them?" she asked. Bennett's expression didn't change, but his voice softened. "We don't know. None of them have been found. In most cases, their phones and identification were recovered in public locations weeks after they stopped responding. No bodies, no witnesses, no evidence of what happened in between." Carmen felt numb. Victor Aslan. He's connected to at least 8 of these cases through various corporate entities. But he insulates himself well. Layers of shell companies, partners who take the fall, legal teams that tie up investigations for years. So he's still out there. Bennett nodded. We issued a quiet bulletin to international law enforcement. 2 of his subsidiary companies were shut down last month, but he was never charged. He relocated. We believe he's operating under a different name now. Carmen's hands curled into fists on the table. That's it? That's all that happens? Bennett looked at her for a long moment. I'm sorry. I know that's not enough. It wasn't. That night, Carmen went home and opened the drawer in her bedroom where she'd kept Megan's things. The passport returned to her by Dubai authorities. The silver bracelet, still on her wrist but taken off now, placed carefully beside a stack of old photos. She pulled out one of the photos, the 2 of them at a lake in northern Arizona, maybe 15 years ago. Sunburned, laughing. Megan's arms slung over Carmen's shoulder. They looked so young, so sure that life would work out if they just kept trying. Carmen sat on the floor and cried. 2 weeks later, she set up her phone on a tripod in her living room. Her hands trembled as she pressed record. She didn't rehearse. She didn't write a script. She just talked. She told Megan's story. The job offer. The red flags. The silence. The passport in the dumpster. The investigators who couldn't do enough. The man who smiled because he knew no one could touch him. She said Megan's name over and over. Megan Carter, mother of 2. Sister. Daughter. A woman who deserved better than to become a statistic. At the end, her voice cracked. If you're watching this and you've been contacted about a job overseas that sounds too good to be true, please look closer. Ask questions. Do research. Talk to someone. Don't go alone. Don't trust a contract sent through email. Don't believe someone just because they seem professional. She wiped her eyes. I don't know if this will help anyone, but I had to try. She posted the video on every platform she could find. Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. She didn't expect much. Maybe a few dozen views. Maybe some polite comments from friends. The first day, the video got 200 views. By the end of the week, it had 50,000. The comments came slowly at first, then flooded in. I almost took a job like this. Same company name, same setup. I'm so glad I saw this. My cousin got an offer last month. I'm sending her this right now. This happened to my friend in 2021. We never found her either. Thank you for saying their names. I work in victim advocacy. I'm sharing this with every organization I know. Carmen read them alone at night, sitting in her bedroom with the lamp on low. She cried quietly. Holding the silver bracelet in her palm, the views kept climbing. 100,000. 500,000. News outlets started reaching out. Advocacy groups, podcasters, people who wanted to help, or at least amplify the warning. Carmen didn't do interviews. She didn't want attention. She just wanted women to know what to look for, what questions to ask, what red flags to trust. Megan's daughters asked about her sometimes. Emma, now 10, wanted to know if her mom was ever coming home. Carmen told her the truth. She didn't know. Sophie, 12, stopped asking. She kept her mother's photo on her nightstand and didn't talk about it. Carmen didn't have answers. She didn't have justice. She didn't even have closure. But she had Megan's story, and she made sure it reached the women who needed to hear it. They never found Megan Carter, but her story found the women who needed to hear it. Thank you for watching. If Megan's story stayed with you, please subscribe and share it with someone who needs to see the warning signs. Forward it to a friend considering an overseas opportunity. Send it to someone who trusts too quickly when they're desperate. Post it where women looking for second chances might find it. Because the best way to honor the ones we've lost is to protect the ones we haven't. Megan Carter deserved better. So does the next woman they target. Don't let there be a next woman.